Hey everyone, it's Average Gatsby. Welcome back to my Fallout New Vegas guide. I skipped the conversation right here, but basically Johnson Nash tells you, hey, we lost our deputy inside of the, I'm going to call it the Buffalo Bill Hotel. It's the Bison Steve, but Buffalo Bill is what it's based on. I've actually been to Primm in real life, and I've, seen the casino, and it looks pretty much just as shitty as it looks right here. Alright, let's head on inside. Now, I picked up from Johnson Nash a pair of brass knuckles. Johnson Nash will almost always, in fact, I have never run into a game where he did not have an unarmed weapon. The question is, what unarmed weapon does he have? Most of the time he's got brass knuckles. Sometimes he's got bladed gauntlets. If he has bladed gauntlets, you're pretty much on easy mode for the next few levels, because this game already is not really that hard. It's more about knowing where things are. But if you have bladed gauntlets, oh man, you're pretty much unstoppable. But as you'll see, these brass knuckles are pretty good. So I take a position behind the desk right there because I know that these guys are going to attack me. Basically, there's going to be one melee guy and one guy that shoots. The guys that shoot are really easy for me to take out, and as you can see, the brass knuckles are plenty strong to kill these guys. They're not going to be too much of a challenge. It's mainly, just sort of keeping my health in mind the whole time. One thing I do want to say, you always want to use VATS from now on, because VATS gives you an increase of 5% for your critical hits, and as I've talked about earlier, crits are really important to this build. So getting those critical hits is really important. Alright, so you need to have at least a science skill of 25. I didn't have it, so I needed to use a book, but to open up this little side door over here. This is a great room to go in for my build because there's a lot of drugs inside, and plus there's a key that makes the next section a little bit easier. By no means do you have to do this, but as most people will be able to get a science skill of over 25 before moving on either through a book or already having it at this point, I'm going to go ahead and assume that you can get into this room, and so that's why I'm showing it. I don't really have any tips for the password game. The only main tip I can say is that after you guess 3 times, if you haven't gotten it already, just quit and come back, and you'll be able to start the whole process over again. It's annoying, but you definitely do not want to get locked out. You can also lockpick the door if you have a lockpick skill of 50, but obviously, that's a lot higher. So we're going to grab, there's going to be some Mentats in here, some Rad-X, plenty of good stuff. I take the pistol too, just because I'm going to sell that later. There's just a lot of good stuff in this room. I'm not really going to go too into the details in this game of, all of the, you can find a, a stim pack in this room and things like that. The minor loot, I'm just going to say, hey, this is a good area to look for loot, and that's it. You don't really need to know the particulars. I will be going over all the unique weapons and things like that, or perhaps a very expensive weapon if there's an easy way to get it. So I will talk about those things, but I'm not going to go into the particulars of where you can find all the, pre-war money, if for some reason you wanted to find all of that in the game. Alright, so I'm just sort of sneaking around here, making sure there's no one patrolling, and if you got that key, you can come in here through the back way. And coming into the back way is really nice. It just makes this next section a little bit easier. It's really easy if you have a gun, because you can get a bunch of guys to all funnel down this hallway, but my whole build at this point is basically the super aggressive style. I need to get in their face as quickly as possible. So there's a few guys in the room, but if you stay ducked and you have a good enough sneak, you should be able to get around them and talk to Deputy Beagle over here. Now, my speech isn't high enough that I can get him to divulge his information beforehand, but it is going to be high enough that I will be able to bring him along in the rest of the building. In fact, that's what I suggest you do, because that makes things a heck of a lot easier. Now, at this point, we can actually just leave this whole area. There's nothing in the quest that says you actually have to kill all of these not actually powder ganger guys before you move on. And so I choose not to do that because I like to take Deputy Beagle with me and, you know, try to get as much loot as possible. But just keep that in mind. There's nothing that says every single one of these guys has to be killed inside and outside before you can go on. Don't be like me right here and not pay attention to where dynamite is being thrown when you're fighting powder gangers or anyone else that uses explosives. When you get into your VATS mode, you're not going to be able to get out of it until the animation is done, and it can really screw you up sometimes. I know I've definitely jumped into situations in VATS where I suddenly become surrounded and, you know, meet a horrible death. So these guys are not really too challenging. I'm just sort of standing behind Deputy Beagle, letting him tank a few shots, letting myself tank a few, and as we get into VATS, you know, the critical strikes come and it becomes very easy. The one guy you got to be aware of in this room is obviously the leader who has the flamer. I've had several games where Deputy Beagle gets absolutely destroyed by that weapon, but if you cripple one of his arms, he's not going to be able to use it because it is a two-handed weapon, and that can be pretty easy to do. So, just something to be aware of. I also don't really like to pick it up. I mean, I pick it up, I think, right away right now. One thing I do like to do when I come into a building, sometimes it's a little bit faster for me if instead of looting everyone at once, I like to go through and maybe kill all the guys on the floor and then go back afterwards and do all my loot. So, like I said before, you can leave right now, but I'm going to take Deputy Beagle upstairs because there's still some more loot in here. There's nothing really to write home about as far as the other loot that's in here. The only other thing is that there are some bladed gauntlets in here that are on the second floor. There is a gun cabinet that's locked, but you need 50 lockpicking in order to get it, and unfortunately I don't have it at this moment, so I'm not going to be able to get it. Something else to keep in mind, Deputy Beagle does not by any means need to live, and so when he dies up here, I'm sorry, spoiler alert, he's gonna die. You know, just loot his body and pick up the holotape that he's got on him, and that will give you, it'll basically say what he would have told you should he have lived. So, live or die, it doesn't matter. In fact, you could have beaten him to death right there on the ground and just sort of been done with it, and maybe that would have been the better thing to do, but I want to make this section a little bit easier for me. Let's talk about, real quick, the patch that came out. At the time that this video was made, the patch was not out yet, so I haven't accounted for the change in stim pack prices and bug fixes and possibly new bugs. I don't know. I don't know all the details of the patch, but I do know one thing is that stim packs and super stim packs did get a lot more expensive. So I think it's a good thing. Money isn't really that big of an issue in this game, but making the stim packs a little bit more expensive, maybe it'll make me think a little bit more about the way I spend my money, but honestly, I feel like my character is mostly overflowing in cash. It might make me play a little bit more cautious, and I'm sure that's probably their ultimate goal, is they don't want people just running through this game and running into situations and then thinking, oh, I can just pop a stim pack and get out of it, which is basically what the game is like when you're not playing on hardcore mode. I kind of wish that you could adopt certain aspects of hardcore mode into the normal game without going on the true hardcore mode, having to drink and do all basically the annoying stuff in hardcore mode. While still having some of the challenge of, you know, not having the stim packs heal you instantly and things like that. So I've become over encumbered. I'm going to skip me going back and forth and getting all of the loot, but basically you want to pick up Deputy Beagle's journal, as you can see from his dead body lying there. So now that I've made you watch over 9 minutes of this video, I think it'd be a good time to say that this entire section is actually completely skippable. You can just pass right on through Primm and go straight to Nipton, and it has almost no bearing on the main plot of the game. I don't know if it's a glitch or if that is intentional for some reason, but you can just completely skip Primm and you won't really have any problems. You will have to come back if you want to do some side quests here, but hey, that is an option if for some reason you're on a speed run or something. Let's talk about what's in store next time. I'm going to do a couple side quests and get a little experience before we move on to the next area, and then I will continue with the main quest. Anyway, this is Average Gatsby. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please rate, comment, subscribe, give me any feedback you like, and I will see you all very soon.